The Arts Envoy is an A.W.E program supporting 5 Wisconsin artists in discovering new ways to utilize their creative spirit and ideas in settings outside of what is normally seen as places for art and artists. The Arts Envoy program began during a very uncertain time for creatives as the world experienced a pandemic that halted all in-person arts and culture events, offering artists an opportunity to evolve the way they engage with audiences and communities. As the world returns to a new reality, artists can shape how this looks and feels. The Arts Envoy are empowered to create change and cultivate their chosen communities. This is their story.
I work in video, sculpture, and performance. And I make work that kind of addresses and acknowledges and also creates space for specifically Black queer folks to identify their trauma, but also try to find a sense of belonging within that trauma and within those spaces. I work with a lot of natural materials that I feel like culturally seem like everyday objects, but culturally have language within Black queer culture. When I found that there was this mode of making that can exist within art making and fighting this oppression and organizing work and movement work, and Arts Envoy was going to allow me to do that, I decided to be a part of it. And then it turned into like this cohesive idea of a future archival space. What does fighting oppression looks like tomorrow? How can we learn from history and generations before us to figure out what can happen in the future? That's kind of like what I want people to get from my work, or more specifically, the community of people I make work for to get from my work. But it's really your people that's right beside you that really teach you what's valuable. And I think that's one of the best things about being in the cohort.
My art practice connects analog photography, drawing, animation, and painting, and I use sentimental objects as material for my inspiration. So my recent work explores my early childhood memories. I source images from my games, blankets, and toys, and I want to invoke an experience reminiscent of my youth growing up on digital devices. I continue to explore these shared memories of growing up in digital spaces in my work, and this is what I've been focusing on in my residency. So my initial idea for my project was to continue themes from my personal practice, and that was to really develop a body of work geared towards young people who are navigating their presence on online spaces and how that affects their health. Because of the pandemic and the state of the world, everyone has become more online than ever, so I felt a need to make work that was for young people navigating their mental health on social media specifically. And what's something that I found very interesting with it is typically when you think of social media, you think of how it's not really good for your mental health or self-perception of yourself and how you present yourself. But now there's this growing presence of therapy and wellness culture on social media, and this kind of irony where like social media is not really a good place to present yourself, but then it's at the same time preaching about wellness culture. So I was really interested in that dichotomy, and that's what my projects are about.
I've been an artist my whole life, and for a long time I thought I only wanted to be a visual artist, and I focused on painting, and I still love painting and drawing. It will always have a special place in my heart. And I always was a dancer, but I never really took it seriously. And it was more recently that I decided to dedicate myself to dance training and believe in myself enough to put my all into it. And I think that's a big part of being an artist. Like something that I've really had to work on is taking myself seriously and taking my work seriously. My favorite type of dance is contemporary ballet. I love classical ballet, but It's a little too rigid. I love the freedom of contemporary ballet, but it still has the principles and the specificity required in ballet, but you just have more freedom. Art is really important for community building, and you're creating cultural artifacts, and you can't, like, it has to be authentic. And I think that A.W.E gives us that freedom to be authentic in our work.
My practice is a little bit varied. I'm primarily sculpture, but I like to go wherever a project leads me. So most of the time it's wood or metal because those are practical for large scale works, which is where I like to be most of the time. But I've worked with textiles, drawing, painting, all that fun stuff. So for subject matter, I like to take something a little more serious, something that gives me a little bit, like things I worry about or things that are concerning for people in general. And then I like to put those with a comedic facade to draw people in. So kind of like a political cartoon where it looks big and silly and funny, and then it's like, oh, that's really serious. So my initial idea that I came in guns blazing that I really wanted to do was this idea I've had for a while was sculpture gardens, because around the studio I'll see these vacant lots and I really want to do something with those, so I'm thinking sculpture gardens. And the more I'm looking into that process and the idea of placemaking, there's a lot of focus on really connecting with the community around the place you're trying to make. So I kind of stepped back and I thought of ways that I've connected with people in the past. And I remembered I juggle a lot, and juggling was really a big connection for me in college, and finding new people, making new friends, and something that was really fun to share. So I thought I could bring that juggling back, connect it to my art practice, and find new ways to connect with the community, and start from there, and then try to work back towards the sculpture gardens.
I am a visual artist, but also a poet and a spiritualist. So my art really speaks to a lot of my own journey in life, and also connecting with others through my art, and just it's always an intuitive experience. I literally can't imagine things. So it's just like, if it's on the paper, that's what I see. So my practice at the moment, I do mostly like my watercolor journaling stuff. So like I create like these little characters and I add poetry to it, or I do like tarot spreads with them. So like I'll like do entire reading, but it's like in my painting. And I sell my artwork from time to time to people who desire something like energetic in their space, because since I was like little, I've always focused on like just creating intuitively, not like planning it all the time. And what I've come to find out is that I really like painting goddesses. That's my favorite thing to paint. My initial ideas was, first I wanted to do like affirmations for Milwaukee, and like a workshop of sorts where we like create our own affirmations to empower our city. But then it changed from like that to like, oh, I want to make like posters or a button or something to create for people to share with others or around the country, like something that's not just here, but I wanted to still represent us. Now it's turning into like this project where I create some art and I add words to it, so whatever I'm feeling. So it's gonna, like, I said a zine at first, but now it seems like it's gonna be turning into like these sets of like paintings, like watercolor paintings, but with a connection to the audience, and like how I see Milwaukee, how I've seen like my cohort like here develop in their own projects and things.
A.W. believes artists can offer creative solutions and strategies previously unimagined to benefit their communities.